Good morning. How's everybody doing? Appreciate you coming today. So we're waiting for Sarah to join in by Zoom, but I figured we'd go ahead and get started. So first up today is going to be Darien TV.
And do you want to have everybody come up to the dais to
So
present?
Jim, how you feel? Like, can you come up here and because that way?
Sure.
Sarah
Okay.
can see if she gets in.
Sure.
Mr. Cameron, welcome. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Putting me at the top of the rotation there. We had a good fourth quarter, and the highlight of which I think was the results of our viewer survey. We had a rather small response. I was disappointed despite numerous promotions in newsletters. At Home in Darien did a special promotion. The Senior Center, I handed out palm cards at the RTM. But I'll take the low response as everyone's happy with how things are going, as opposed to I don't care. I'm interpreting the lack of response as satisfaction, if not enthusiasm, with what the TV 79 Darien TV is doing. Just the highlights: 85% of the respondents say they watch either every day or week. Most watch in the evenings. The top shows the Board of Selectmen, RTM, Ask the First Selectman. How do they watch it? 1/3 watch on cable, 1/3 watch on YouTube, and 45% access through our website. The best promotion of what's people are interested in seeing come in the program guide and the best of Darien TV newsletter that comes out every week. And we asked a couple of questions about the artificial intelligence summaries that we have been posting to see if people could find them, if they were useful, etc. 2/3 of the respondents said they were either helpful or okay, they were useful to know what was going to be in a meeting. And just a quick poll at the end that we did: how do you find out what's going on in town? Darien TV, 58%. Thank you very much. Darien Times, 51%. The Patch, 57%. Stanford Advocate, 27%. And right up there near the top of the list, word of mouth, talking to neighbors, going out shoveling and saying, hey, did you hear what the Board of Selectmen did now? So
Constant refrain.
Yes, a constant refrain. So those are the highlights. Happy to answer any questions either about the viewer survey or other things that were in the summary.
Yeah, a couple of things. Just reading through the, excuse me, page 1 of the summary and talking about this ongoing concern about Altice.
Yep.
And their takeover. Can you explain that, just where that stands? Because before that was in progress, they were changing the channel from 79 to something else. You had to change it to Darien TV. They kept 79. So where is all this standing right now?
So Altice is the owner of what's called Optimum Cable. It used to be Cablevision. They're caught up in a couple of different things that are going on. One is they tried to move our channel location from channel 79 up to channel 1310, and then they were persuaded by the negative response to that to move us back to channel 79. But more importantly, the way Darien TV and all the town-specific TV stations operate is that we are the provider for the public, educational, and government access channels on that cable system. And we've been doing that now for 25, 30 years under a town-specific model. So if you live in Darien and you turn on channel 79, you're going to see Darien programming. If you live in Norwalk and you turn on 79, you'll probably see community calendar, but you won't see Darien. There's been an intervener, a third party that's come in known as Nutmeg, and they do community public education and government channels up in Farmington, and they have filed to take over almost all of the PEG stations and their operation across the state, across multiple franchises. This would not be good for us for a number of reasons. One, we would lose the funding that we get through Area 9 Cable Council, which is about $8,000 a year. And more importantly, we would lose the town-specific model of what we've been doing. Their proposal is to homogenize all the programming from all the towns. So if you live in Darien and you turn on channel 79, you might see a meeting from Greenwich, or you might see a meeting from Wilton. If you live in Wilton, you might see a meeting from Darien, but this is not the way to operate. We have filed as an intervener in the docket that's going to be heard by PURA, the Public Utilities Regulatory Agency, and we're just waiting on what the timing is going to be to try and persuade them through a vast lobbying effort that this is not the way to run these channels. Our chairman, who has been through this movie before, is optimistic that we will come out victorious, but it's aggravating to not know that this model that we've been using all these years, almost 20 years on Darien TV, is going to continue.
Now, this is kind of an out there comment, but I was looking at the results here where you say, where do you usually watch Darien TV? So, granted, small surveys size, but 34% said cable, but 45% said it was your website, 35% of it was YouTube, 10% of it was Vimeo. Those are all non-cable TV sites.
That's
and
correct.
so I really worry about the comment that says that there's the potential you would have mixed town programming in there. I think that's what's destroyed the Darien Times, right? How many times you open up the Darien Times and there's either one or literally no articles about Darien in the Darien Times. And I worry that if we get to that model, I am not going to sit there and try to find Darien programming from Wilton and Westport and Greenwich. I'm just not doing it. So I really like the idea of just Darien only programming. If it goes that route, is there some way that we could create something that's just Darien TV on those distribution channels and stick with that?
Our model is to continue doing what we're doing, which is to put the programs, like last night's RTM meeting is available now on our website. It will be available on YouTube as soon as I get home and push a couple of buttons as well too. We wouldn't be able to then distribute it and know it was going to be seen on cable if we lost the control of the individual channel. The cable viewers, I think, tend to be older. I think they're not as familiar with the technology. They might have heard of YouTube, but to ask them to find anything on YouTube, despite sending them links and tutorials, etc., would be difficult. So I'm concerned about losing the signal on cable, although our model of doing, gavel-to-gavel coverage of all the town meetings would continue, and those would be available through the website or YouTube.
Okay. And then, excuse me, from your survey, was there anything you learned from that that says you want to make a change or focus in some particular area of improvement?
We're going to have a meeting of the Darien TV Advisory Board this evening and have a more robust discussion about all this. Okay. And there was nothing that leapt off the page. I thought of a lot of what came out of the survey was kind of like suspicions confirmed. What we thought was going on seems to be going on. What really surprised me, just getting back to your comments about how do you find out what's going on in town, was I don't know how 51% of the respondents said that they get their news about what's going on in Darien from the Darien Times, which again, as we've discussed any number of times, is sorely lacking in any kind of local coverage.
Okay.
I think they're creatures of habit. They just subscribe.
No question. Well, the only question I had was in regards to the commission. Are you full? You're stacked with all the people that should be on that, or are you still looking for the advisory board?
We still have at least one opening.
One opening. Okay.
For anyone in any party. We're going to talk about filling that this evening.
Okay.
To the point of what Mr. Zagrodzky raised last night, which is we need to do something to make sure that the membership of the advisory board is fleshed out and not have to go through all these, hoops through RTC, DTC, finding people, sending them I think we should make it easier, especially for people who are not wired into the town committees.
Sure.
Yeah, we're going to work pretty hard on that.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions for Jim? Jim, thank you. That's
You're
great.
very welcome. Thank you.
All right. Next up, Mindy, Health Department.
Come on up, Mindy.
It's a race.
I know, right?
You should have an on-deck circle here. Who's up next after me?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I have just a couple of additions to the quarterly report that's in front of you. And I think these are really noteworthy public health hot topics that have occurred over this last quarter. One of which being our first measles case in over 4 years of an unvaccinated child in Fairfield County. And what I will comment and say about that is that it triggered a look at kind of response plans for local health departments. There was about 12 health departments that were involved in some sort of contact monitoring as a result of this singular case. So what happened was, this child was in different settings, not to mention school, but that kind of started this whole contact monitoring piece that all health departments were kind of looking at and really getting integrated in the community. And, it's no surprise to anybody how, contagious measles is. In fact, it's so contagious that, it can live for up to 2 hours airborne after someone has left an area. So that just speaks to how really contagious it is. So again, there were a bunch of health departments that were on high alert that were monitoring people, and there was no subsequent cases, I'm happy to report, because of this singular case. And I think I believe that is because of the high vaccination rates that we have across the state. So I'm very happy about that. But there's no question that 2025 is a record-breaking year for the amount of measles cases we've seen across the country. I didn't include that in my report because it wasn't directly impacting our community, but it's something we should just be tied into. In 2025, there was over 2,000 measles cases reported across the country and 3 pediatric deaths, which we have not seen in decades. In 2024, there was just as a point of reference, there was about a little over 200 cases nationwide and 0 deaths. So again, this is just something we're watching, and I think it's important for me to just kind of reflect and report out on that because that did occur in this last quarter. Also, my segue to the second public health national hot topic is the changes to the childhood immunization schedule from HHS. And there was a circular letter that was released from our Commissioner Giutani, Commissioner of Public Health for the state. And her 3 key points I just wanted to bring out at this meeting is that the Connecticut immunization schedule and childhood vaccination requirements for schools have remained unchanged. And that is because of a Connecticut General Statute 19A-7F, where the commissioner determines the standards of care for immunization of children in our state. And the basis for that standard of care is a recommendation schedule that is vetted through the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the American Academy of Family Physicians. So again, consistent with that statute, we will continue in Connecticut to follow the previously approved evidence-based immunization schedule for our children. So I thought that was another important thing, although it did not make it in my report to bring forward. And that's a good segue to my open position. It has been very difficult to fill our part-time public health position, and I've been filling in double duty there for almost a year. Tied into these kind of specific things that I would be delegating a public health nurse to do, watching surveillance through our various platforms that the state has, through CTEDS, through Connecticut Wizard. So right now, this is the 3rd time we've put out this job posting, and we revised it just a little bit to make it more of hybrid, a little flexibility, and adjusted the salary, hopefully to attract a different pool or a bigger pool of candidates. So I'm putting it out there to anybody in this room or anybody listening at home that might know somebody that wants some part-time hours to work for the health department and support Allie and Human Services with some of the mental health work that historically our nurse has been involved with, the mental health first aid course. So I'm hoping we can fill that position soon. It closes this Friday, and so hopefully we can get a good candidate in there. OpenGov implementation. This has been something we've been working on since July in the health department to integrate with that online platform. We have slowly tested it at the end of last year with some of our land use permits and plan reviews, also food service of our new facilities. We've been pushing them online to do all of that electronically. I think it's really made us more efficient. It's tied us into other health departments nicely with a shared feature that they have as part of that. So that has taken a tremendous amount of time over the last 6 months, but we, as of January 1st, all of our permits, plan reviews, applications, are all online, which is great. And we will start to onboard some of our seasonal places, farmers market vendors, the pools, cosmetology, some of our more seasonal things. We're gonna target messaging out to them because they'll be going in every year to renew, just like our food services. So out of our, I think we're up to 184 active year-round food service establishments. For the first time ever, they're all being done online. So there's no emailing paperwork, sending back permits, waiting for payment. It's all streamlined, which I'm really proud that we were able to do that. The last thing I'm going to comment on is we are participating again with the State Health Department with the Radon program. So January is EPA's National Radon Action Month, and the only way to know if radon is present in your home is to test. We have about 50 free test kits that are available to the public. They can come into Town Hall, come down to the Health Department. We will just take some information so that we can track those things for surveillance purposes, and they can receive a free test kit. Last year, out of 75 test kits, we only had one that exceeded the EPA's threshold of 4 picocuries per liter of air, and so that's really great out of 75 test kits.
Any questions?
Marcy?
Yeah, I got a couple. In regards to the position for the nurse, do you think it's because it's a part-time gig and a lot of people want full-time gigs?
I think it is.
Okay, now, the other question is there any, maybe we could think about doing a co-share with another town? And I'm sure there's probably thought of this. I don't know if Greenwich and New Canaan or Westport or any of these other communities are also looking for part-time help. Is it the kind of thing that we could partner with them and do half here, half there, sort of a shared position?
I think I would need to talk to Susan about that to see if that was something that we could do. But historically, it's never been done that way. It doesn't mean it can't be.
Yep.
And I know that there are a lot of other health departments that have contractual part-time people that fill this role. Same in New Canaan, it's a part-time position.
Okay.
But yeah, I do think it's difficult across the board for
To fill
part-time.
that, yeah.
For
I can
part-time
imagine.
positions. And, you know, we have sent this out various ways. I've sent it to universities, I've sent it to associations like the Connecticut Public Health Nursing Association. I've sent it out to my colleagues, other directors of health, like does anybody know anybody? So it seems like we've put it out there, and we have had candidates. We've had interviews 2 different times. We've met with people. And it just, for whatever reason, they got a counter offer. It just wasn't a good fit for them. They didn't respond when they got to the next step. But we have had people apply, and we've interviewed twice now. So this will be the 3rd time that we have interviews.
All right, well, good luck with that. The other thing is there a protocol if there is a measles case in town? Do we have some sort of procedure that we follow, or is there state recommendations that if something happened in town that we could advise this family on next steps?
Absolutely. There's all templates for that. And this toolkit, when we met, and I know I'd shared this with Jen when the State Health Department called a meeting of all health directors on one Saturday morning, I believe. And it was, you know, there's all the templates and guidance for that. So those 12 health departments that I referenced in the beginning that were doing some of that contact monitoring, there's a script that's been developed. There's procedures in place, you know, for notifying people, templates for schools, for long-term care, anywhere.
Okay.
So all that's there, yes. And I did talk to the school nurse about just having a heightened, Emily Merritt, or, you know, heightened awareness. And have we identified those children that are not vaccinated in our system? And if so, you know, how often are we looking at those things? Do we know where they are? So yeah, we had those conversations very proactively.
Okay, good.
Isn't it the case that the kids can't enroll unless they have these vaccinations? Is that still the
Yes,
the
that is
standard?
the standard.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
The next question I had is in regards to radon testing. What is the recommendation how frequently somebody should be testing their home for radon? Is it every year, every 5 years, every 10 years?
So if you haven't done substantial work to your house, then it's like once a year. And same with our daycares. Our
It is.
daycares are required to test once a year
It is
unless,
once a year,
or
okay.
one time, unless there's any work that's been done.
Okay.
Renovation, changes in foundation. But as a general rule of thumb, I think every 5 years, and same with water quality.
Okay.
You know, the state would tell you do, you know, bacterial, like just a really basic test annually, but then every 5 years to really do a more comprehensive in-depth analysis. So that would be my recommendation for that too.
Okay, that might be something that we add in the newsletter, just kind of updating families on how frequently to do those kind of testing, because I've never heard
Yeah.
those stats before. I would never have any idea on
how often I should be testing my
Yeah.
water or radon or,
Noted.
right?
Right, and it's every, you know, the lowest lived-in level of your home is what we generally tell people. So if you have a gym in the basement, are you doing laundry down there? If there's some way that, you know, place that you're staying underground, right?
Yep.
That's where you want to be doing the testing.
Okay, good recommendation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good deal. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, next up, Susan, Human Resources. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Good.
Before I start my report, to answer the question that you just asked Mindy.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Uh-huh.
The only thing is, I think the reason that part-time is so hard to recruit for is the benefits. And if you're part-time in 2 different places, it's not going to help you with the benefits.
Okay.
So it's not a bad idea, but I don't know if it would attract that many more.
Got
Could
it.
you hire full-time, pay the benefits in one location, and that the shared cost actually includes the cost of those benefits?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, there's lots
Never-
of conversations,
Yeah,
you know,
I
if
mean,
it becomes that desperate of trying to fill that position
Right.
and it's so needy for us, then we probably need to think of outside of the box ways to do recruiting.
Absolutely, and I
right?
think the hybrid situation that Mindy asked for was a great one, where this particular position has a lot they can do from home. And so
Okay.
this time
Okay.
around, we really tried to push that piece of it to see if we can get some people interested in that. Because you're typically going to get somebody that's a nurse somewhere else, or a retired nurse, or
Yeah.
somebody that's just doing this for some extra hours. But that's the benefits is the
Got it.
difference between the part and full-time as far as recruitment.
Okay.
But we can certainly ask around. Speaking of recruitment, this is the first time my report's gone to 3 pages, and it's because of all the recruitment. So this past 6 months has pretty much been all about recruitment. I was telling you that in a recent department head meeting that I actually had recruitments going on in 8 different departments at the same time, which is unheard of so far here. But we've had some key retirements. I think that kind of drove a lot of these recruitment efforts, but they're all going pretty well. We have a couple of problem children, one of them being that public nurse position, and there's another position that's a little bit been difficult getting, that we've had to go out a few times for. The dispatch situation is starting to look better. We're
Okay.
almost fully staffed there, which was one of the big ones. We have an offer out, or we need to have 9 positions there. Our person that would be filling the 8th role is actually out in the pre-employment process right now. We've got a candidate identified possibly for the 9th position, so fingers crossed that might be something we might be talking about, but I've said that a few times now, so I'm hoping this time it's really going to stick. Other than the recruitments, which has been the majority of what we're doing, we have been working on a few other things, which I listed in the report. Nothing new to say on that. One thing I kind of thought about today that's not in this report is last time I reported on the one big beautiful bill and the effect it was going to have on payroll as far as the no tax on overtime situation. Yeah. So I think I was just talking today to Karen. I think I might put something out to employees just to kind of educate them, because what's going to happen is the W-2 is going to come out. There's going to be a number in a box that shows you how many overtime, what your overtime is that would be eligible for this tax deduction. And I think it's going to be a lot lower than people are expecting, because there are a lot of restrictions on what that overtime benefit is from a tax standpoint. It's, you know, as I mentioned last time, it's only on the hours that are eligible for overtime per the FLSA, which is basically any hours that you put in over the 40 hours a week, you get time and a half on. And then even of those hours, it's only that half time. So if you work 4 hours of overtime that qualifies for FLSA and you get paid for 6 because it's time and a half, only these 2 hours are going to be tax deductible. Plus, a lot of our unions' overtime policies are more generous than the FLSA. And so if you're getting overtime because it's a Saturday, but you didn't put your 40 hours in per FLSA, but you're getting paid overtime per your contract, that's not going to be eligible for the tax deduction. So I'm thinking maybe an email out to the employees to kind of, it's going to be confusing also, but to try to kind of explain that as the W-2s are coming out, because I have a feeling people are going to be a little bit surprised at that number.
Well, most of their accountants should be able to walk them through that process,
I would hope
right?
so. But some people don't have tax people. Some
Yeah.
people just do their own taxes, and so they might be confused about why that number is what it is.
Are we still doing the library? Are they still offering some of those tax services that they did back in the, didn't they do that last year or a couple of years? They had no, she's not here. Anybody remember that? Yeah, they are. Yeah, I mean, that might be a good thing to say too. You know,
Yeah.
the library does have some tax advisors around this time. If you have any questions, that would
That's
be
a
a
great
better
idea.
space to go.
Yeah, good, yeah.
I guess we just have to confirm that's definitely happening, but I think.
Anyway, got any questions about anything?
No, pretty clear. I just, good luck with all this continued recruiting. There is a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan.
Okay, next up, Human Services and Senior Center, Ally Ramstack.
I have to come up twice. I've sat up here before. So just a couple of things. I say this, I think, pretty much every year, but we're extremely grateful to the community for all of the donations that they gave us in Human Services for the holidays. We had, what was it? We had 51 families adopted and 48 seniors, which is all donations. Sometimes it's groups of people, book clubs, some people in here. So it's just amazing how generous our community is, so thank you. We had during Medicare open enrollment, we helped 52 seniors this year, which are quite time consuming. It takes about an hour per person. The biggest one that we saved was one person saved about $10,000 because their drug was not going to be on the formulary and the plan they're on. So if they hadn't checked it and stayed on there, they would have had to pay $10,000 or go off the medication. So it's always exciting when we can save somebody money. And they're very appreciative of that. So Cynthia Hall and I are both trained choices counselors. And then we had Survivor Day, which is through American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. This is the 4th year in a row that we hosted it, and we did it at the Mather Center. And the participants liked it down there with the fireplace. It was cozy. So it's basically a day for anyone who, and it's not just for Darien residents, but anyone who's lost someone by suicide. It's a day, it's an actually international day, so it's done throughout the world to get together and to share stories and to bond and just help them in their grieving. And on to the Senior Center. Thank you to so many of you in the room who helped us with our holiday meals, the Thanksgiving and the holiday meals. We had Chef Judy and the team served 130 seniors and those who served. So it was very successful, and the seniors love it, and the seniors love seeing the department heads and staff help out too, so it's always fun. And some of you may have noticed the ableist participants that are in our building. So we partnered with them starting October 1st. So there's a LEAP program. It's basically a program for young adults who just aged out of the school system, so in their young 20s for the most part. And it's helping them learn life skills, hopefully employment and social skills and stuff like that. So they're willing to do projects and want to help if there's projects in Town Hall. I think Krista's taking up on that soon, right? Because they want to keep them busy and basically just get them involved in the community. So they're in and out throughout the day, but the seniors are enjoying having them there too. So it's been working out really well. And then just one other change for the Senior Center, effective February 1st. Some people might not like this, but everyone's going to have to come in the main entrance to make sure that everyone checks in and pays for their class at the main entrance. Sometimes people been able to go upstairs just right into their class, but for security purposes, we want to know who's in the building.
Yep.
You know, just God forbid there's a fire. We had our fire drill, which went fine, but we need just to make sure, and also for streamlining to make sure that all of the money is coming in the one place instead of different places. So that's about it. And any questions?
Anything come up during this major storm that you all had to be aware of or focus on, or all smooth sailing?
Nope, smooth sailing. There were no power outages, right, Mark? So that was a relief. We called the list.
There was actually power outages, but there were minor ones too.
Oh, okay. So we called the whole list on Thursday, and
the seniors all love it, and some like to chat quite a bit. And
That actually might be good for the public just to understand a little bit. So you have a call list for
anyone
Shut in
any
or-
senior who wants to be on it, or someone with a disability. So people can call about getting their neighbor on, as long as the person wants to be on, or, so we have a master list, and we also have an emergency contact, so if we can't get through to that person, we will call the emergency contact. So we call them ahead of time, just letting them know, just making sure they're aware of what's going on, and just preparing them, and also kind of and letting them know, which is very reassuring, that if there are power outages or major issues, continued issues, that we will reach out to them again. Which we don't have to do that often, knock on wood. But if, and God forbid, we weren't able to get in touch with them or their emergency contact, we will go to do a welfare check. But, so we're welcoming, and we're always welcoming people to come to call our office, 656-7328, to be added to the list. So we didn't have to call after the storm, and we did call before the first snowstorm, which was minor compared to this, but, and that's about it.
Okay, my only other question is good participation in your classes. I see the
Yeah.
mental health first aid is coming up early next month, so.
It is, but we might have to postpone it because we don't have a lot of people signed up. Because
Okay.
this time we were partnering with New Canaan Human Services, since they don't have someone, we need 2 people. And so we're waiting for the public health nurse to get trained. So Marcy Rand, the Director of Human Services in New Canaan, was trained, but she doesn't have a partner yet either, so we were gonna do it together. Maybe no one from Darien wanted to go to New Canaan, I don't know, but we're gonna switch off. So I think we're gonna have to postpone it till March, but maybe with
Okay.
all the holidays and the weather situation, people might not make that a priority. So we're probably gonna reschedule that.
Okay, Marcy, questions?
No, I don't think so. Thanks, Ally.
Okay?
Thank you, Ally. Okay, next up, George, Information Technology.
Morning.
How are you?
Very well. How are you guys doing? The only thing that was, I think we've been doing it for the last couple of months. I think it was May when we started. It's pretty much completed now. It wasn't added to this, but it's the big deal that happened, and that was the upgrade of the 2 servers for the tax assessor's office. And that finally went through. I think they're still settling a couple of things, but pretty much they're on it right now, which is good.
Okay.
That was a major development from all the other things. Other than that, I mean, I have nothing else to add if you guys have anything else.
Yeah, just on Microsoft Office 365, is that, I know we've got that for the town, has that all been fully deployed, or where do you stand
We're
on
down
that?
to the last couple of licenses.
Okay,
I've got a couple more machines I'm gonna do downstairs, and those will be the last.
okay, you've have had no trouble with any of that? I just know that.
It's quirky every so often, but it's okay.
So, yeah, just in my email, it's very quirky now, the way it works. It's not
It's
kind of the same
different.
setup
There
from
were other things
before.
with licensing that we're trying to address.
Okay.
What was it? And Microsoft had an issue last week with their emails, and that really messed a lot of things up when I was doing some upgrades for a lot of
Okay.
people. But otherwise, I mean, it's going okay.
And this is our first round, and the plan is to do an audit of all the users who we haven't migrated yet to determine if anyone else should have the more robust.
The later one, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're almost down to the end of it already, which is good. Numbers-wise, the issue becomes we're taking the old license and transferring it over to the new person. So now you got 2 licenses for 1 person, and that's where it's getting a little quirky at times. But I've been able to just figure out something.
Okay. And then just in terms of, say, testing for compliance with phishing and that type of thing, where you go, say, make sure that folks are paying attention and not clicking on bad links or any of that sort of thing. Has that been a problem at Town Hall in terms of just personal behavior and kind of paying attention to those types of issues?
Enough now, which is good.
Okay.
You know, over time, because it's been something that's a major issue over the last couple of years, actually.
Right.
I know that there's some documentation that Jeff tried to put out to some of the users. I'm not sure. I think the biggest deal is, you know, and I've got to work with some of the other people in RTM and the other people who've got Gmail, you know, our town emails. See how we can distribute a lot more documentation for those guys, just to
Yep.
make sure. But otherwise, within the town and stuff, I think it's been addressed pretty well.
Okay. Any reminders you'd like to give to anybody in terms of things they should watch out for or pay attention to?
Well, I think the Super Bowl is coming up.
It is. And so you're reminding us to watch the Super Bowl.
Watch the Super Bowl.
Not directly IT related, but maybe there's a link. If we take another hour or two, we'll find it.
No, you know, the big deal really is it's always been just with, what was it, you know, emails, viruses, keeping things up to date, you know, which is something we're trying to do with our machines here locally, but I'm not sure if something with people at home, you know.
You know, from time to time, I get pop-ups, install a new Adobe, and I'm always hesitant to do that. Can you maybe put together some guidance on what people should or should not be doing on their own in terms of updates?
Well, yeah, what I'll do is I'll work with Jeff to try and distribute something. I know the nice thing is, I mean, because I walk, and everyone's always asking me, I saw this, which is good, you know, and it's nice that they're always being hesitant about just hitting something. But the neat thing about our stuff that we have in place that Jeff put together was just a lot of things that run in the background that prevents a lot of the things from happening, which is good.
Yeah, it's good.
So it's worked out well.
Well, and then finally, just kudos. I thought the State of the Town addresses in terms of the IT side, the presentation, loading, the sort of live captioning and all that work great. It's coming right along. That's terrific, so thank you for that. Other questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you, George.
Next one. And watch that Super Bowl.
We'll watch that. Mr. Ginsburg, land use.
Morning. Two items I wanted to note that occurred basically after the report was written is the Plan of Conservation and Development. The Commission meets pretty much monthly to discuss that. The goal is to have a final draft ready on or about April 30th so we can have a Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing in early July. We're going to aim for that. Hopefully we can hit that, but realize we're almost in February already, so we'll see what we can do. The other item, which relates to the building department, I spoke to Bob Bush prior to the meeting that building is currently wrapped up in inspecting the 3 schools to get them up and ready by August. They're out there quite frequently as a fire marshal's office, so it's keeping the building department quite busy and keeping those projects moving along and aiming for August completion. Nothing else to add.
A couple of things from me. I note that passing of Bill Wright, longtime
Yes.
member of the EPC, and I've acknowledged that before, but that's certainly a loss. He was an energetic participant, not just on EPC, but coastal
issues.
Coastal Waters Advisory, so terrific guy. We did approve last night at the Board of Selectmen appointing Alec Wiggins to replace him, so a letter will go out to that effect, and he should be on EPC pretty shortly, so that was good news. When you say here on the 3rd page, demolition permits, so issued by quarter, looks like 28 over the last year. Are those all residential demolitions? Or is that a mix of commercial and residential? Reason for asking, I'm just kind of curious, how many houses are being demolished and rebuilt from scratch?
I think usually it's about 20 to 25 a year.
Okay.
It's single-family residences. So there are occasionally, so for example, you would think of the properties at 104, 108 Old Kings Highway, right next to Trader Joe's. Those are 2 small commercial office buildings that will be probably demolished this quarter. They pulled the permits. So those are commercial demolition, but generally it's about consistent 25 plus or minus residential tear downs a year, rebuilding a residence in the same location, single family residence.
Yeah, the reason I'm interested in that is that's a kind of housing that is at a particular price point that's being replaced by a house that's at a much higher price point. And so, not that I would deem those houses as affordable in a traditional sense, but they're certainly a lot more affordable than the houses that they're replacing. And I don't know, just something to pay attention to. Not that we would change it, but an interesting trend for sure. Any other questions about you, Marcy?
No, I think so.
Jeremy, thank you.
Sure thing.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Okay, next up, Jen Fava, Parks and Rec.
Good morning.
Hello.
Just to start off, we've got a couple of projects that are underway. We have the Pear Tree Improvement project, which is going quite nicely. We're moving things right along. Dredging actually should be complete at this point. It will be done by the end of this week, which is through our permitting process for the deadline that we have. I know early last week we were at about 90%, so they were planning to have that done. Work is taking place on the drainage, the sidewalks, the boat launch, everything moving along. So we should be good to go for everything being done by May, so that we don't interrupt the summer season. So it's quite something if you drive by and take a look and see what's going on there. We are also have the Tilly Ponds and Cherry Lawn Ponds dredging project. Right now we're going through the permitting process, so that we're on schedule with that.
Is that just EPC or is there any deep?
It's EPC.
Just EPC.
Yep. We also have quite a few staffing changes going on, all great. One, I'm happy to say we have on January 5th, Lexi Pulasic joined our team. She's handling camps is the main thing that she's taking over, as well as other programs and events. She comes to us from Southbury. She's got great experience, great energy, so we're really happy to have her. And we have another position, which is mostly our special events and programs, which is our manager of recreation programs and events, and we're working with Susan right now. These have been part of what's been keeping Susan busy. We're in the final stages, going through the hiring process for that position. Hope to have someone on mid to late February. And then we've also had some movement within the parks. Edwin Acevedo, after 25 years, retired from his position, and Kyle Emond was promoted to fill that position, so we now have his vacancy. So again, something else for Susan to deal with, and we're working on filling that vacancy. In the meantime, while I do just want to give a shout out and give some credit to Jim Coughlin, who while we've been short-staffed, he's been handling all of the programming, everything, every time we've had cancellations, following up with instructors, and as well as getting everything lined up for the spring and summer program. So he's really stepped up and been taking care of all that, which leads me into our spring and summer brochure, which will be going out to everybody, all Darien residents, the week of February 16th. All the information is currently online, and registration will start on February 25th. In regards to camp registration, we do that on a separate day. That is going to be on February 11th. This year we're doing all the camps on the same day, and we are doing staggered times so that we know there's always kind of the rush for people to try to get on, and we're hoping that this will help alleviate a little bit of stress and make it a little bit easier for parents with children in the different camps to be able to register. So we will see. Hopefully it works. We'll see how it goes. But so all of that registration is going to be on February 11th for camps, and we're finalizing those details. We're starting to get that information out and posted. And then we've done some events since we last met. In November, we had our person-to-person. We partnered with them for a food drive that was quite successful, and we held our old-fashioned holiday. And then upcoming on February 6th, we have our Sweetheart Dance, and we do have room available, so if anyone's interested, there's still time to register.
A couple of questions. One is, you talk about just the drop-off in paddle tennis.
Yes.
And I know there was a price increase and all of that, but you mentioned in here, I think somewhere, that was part of a broader trend and that other municipalities are seeing the same thing. Do you have any other comments on that?
No, I think we saw paddle tennis especially. It was one of those outdoor sports that you could do during COVID. So we're still way above where we were pre-COVID. Okay. But when you compare to COVID times, 2021, 21, 22, our numbers keep coming down. So I think we're getting more on par. But again, it's not a Darien alone issue. We're seeing that everywhere, as well as there also now being more recreational opportunities in the wintertime. We're seeing indoor pickleball courts, we're seeing, you know, other things that are being offered just throughout the area, so.
And then one of the things we talked about, and I think Marcy, you and Sarah had spent some time on all this, was a reconfiguration of kind of the youth director role following Alicia's passing. And I'm just kind of curious as to where that thinking is and how you're creating that leadership under your direction and what's next on that.
Yep, so that's basically what Lexi is
Okay.
going to be doing. To be quite honest, she's been here 3 weeks now, something like that. And our main focus right now is just get the camps
Summer camps.
scheduled, situated, get them set and ready to go.
Okay.
That is the main focus, but there are some things that we're looking to do that we had kind of combined, and we'll be having her, one of the things we had talked about was sort of having a calendar for all kinds of youth opportunities and things like that, so that will be one of the things that she'll be tasked with. So trying to get her feet wet, get camp ready, and then once we have that done, we'll start bringing in some of the other pieces of the puzzle and role for that position.
Okay, and so this position you are close to identifying to fill Cassie's role, that would work for Lexi, or that's the hierarchy there? Or it says senior manager and this one is manager?
It was just a way to differentiate the two positions. One is not, they're both going to report from a programmatic standpoint to Jim.
Okay.
And for everything else to me. So the senior person is not overseeing them, the manager. However, we do also see them working together on some different things, different events and things like that.
And then just the request to add or replace some of the sand currently at the beaches requires deep and possibly Army Corps permitting to do that. Tell me about that.
So we had a request with the Pear Tree project coming on that there was a concern or a feel that the sand, as it was termed to be, the sand was dirty at Pear Tree. And they wanted to have new sand brought in, whether that meant taking some of the current sand out and replacing it or adding on top. So we looked into that to see if we could combine it and make it part of the current project. Unfortunately, our permits, as they are now for this project, only include the additional sand that's going on, that's being brought in to expand the beach portion. So it's something that we'll have to look at separately. And go ahead and look at some permitting. But we didn't want to jeopardize the current project or do anything and slow that down, so we'll take a look at that as a separate item.
Okay. Marcy, questions?
In regards to the hiring of summer help, so for the camps and obviously for the lifeguards, I'm not really sure in the past how they've done recruiting for that, but is it something that maybe you guys can reach out to the schools, the local schools, to look for, local kids, just to let, whether it's CDSP or whoever puts out newsletters, to say, hey, we're taking applications for lifeguards and camp counselors and whatnot, because I know kids are very much putting their summer plans together now.
Yep.
And if they commit to a job here now, it's a better idea than all of a sudden in May saying, yeah, I can do a job, but I'm going away for 3 weeks in April, and I'm going to, which is the reality of a teenager, right?
I believe we already do that, but
Okay.
I will double check, and if not, we certainly will do that. It is on our website, and we are kind of putting that out. We do put it in our brochure. And some of it's posting, a lot of it's also word of mouth. So, everyone's starting to get their letters, are you interested in coming back, things like that.
Okay.
So, but I'll double check, but I believe we do reach out to, like through the schools and things like that too.
The other thing is I know the Depot has a huge database as well. Maybe it's something that Amy would be able to kind of put in their newsletter and say that the town is looking for filling these positions, because I know there's not a parent in town who doesn't have subscribed to that, so food for thought.
Sure.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. Thank you, Jen.
Yep.
All right, next up is Mr. Ostafine, Public Works.
Good morning. Aaron Ostafine, sitting in for Ed Gentile. Can't be here. He's in a sanitary sewer symposium in Boston. I'm sure he's watching us. on television right now.
I'm sure you wish you were there in this
Yeah.
place, right? Okay.
You want me to go through just highlights?
Just
of
the
top
highlights would
five?
be great, yeah.
Okay. Gorham's Pond Dam, it's been finished and operational since before Halloween, which was our deadline. And we're still trying to close the project out. Thanks to Josh, the Director of Finance. He got me all the canceled checks we need. And thanks to Mark McEwen in advance, because we're going to make a FEMA submission this afternoon. Finally, a lot of work coming together there. Great Island Driveway, we haven't been out there for a couple of weeks due to the weather. A lot of work has been done. We have been able to progress the project through some of the colder months. The concrete portion of the wall is done. A portion of the stone mock-up is done. If somebody wants to look at that, they can. A lot of the electrical conduit has been installed. A lot of the drainage has been installed. The new roadway has been roughed out. If you drive by there, you can sort of get an idea of what it looks like, which is really hard to do on paper. But if you drive by there, you can see, you can visualize where the road's going to be. The piers are gone that need to be demolished. The pieces of fence that are being salvaged to reconstruct the fence they're either on site or being sent to an iron worker. That's about that, unless there's any questions on that. Okay. Sanitary sewer, we went to the Board of Selectmen last night, as you're aware. Sump pump removal is a big source of clean water that ends up in our sewer. It's a problem that costs millions of dollars, not one you'll hear people talking about at a dinner party. It's not an attractive sort of a thing, but it's real money, and it's a real problem, especially during storms. And as I mentioned, Ed happens to be at a sanitary sewer symposium in Boston right now. He goes every year. Saltbox Lane drainage project, we are progressing with permits. We met with the DEEP, both state and local, and the DEEP has informed us that we're eligible for a certificate of permission, which is a much less lengthy permit process. And that's related only to the Holly Pond Inlet. We're not really, the DEP doesn't have anything to do with other inland wetlands. We'll go to local land use board for that, which we've already begun conversations there. Probably what everybody wants to talk about is winter storm maintenance. We obviously had hopefully our biggest storm of the season is behind us. The bitter cold is very problematic. Salt starts to have trouble working at these temperatures. In this particular storm, we responded to a bus fire, and as you all have seen or been on the news, so DPW crews assisted fire and emergency personnel to get to the bus on the highway, and then we used our Public Works garage to shelter the people in place, thanks to the fire and police who were there to help keep those people out of areas where they shouldn't be, and they didn't get hurt. And when it was 10 degrees out, we weren't going to make them stand outside. So we've responded to about a dozen storms so far this season, and it really feels like it should be the end of February, not the end of January. So. That's about it.
Okay, a couple questions just on the salt box drainage project. So you just remind me of sort of the next few phases. So it's permitting right now. Where are you on, for example, easements to get all that done? And when can the public maybe start to see construction get started on some of that?
As far as the easements, when can the public see the easements? Or the
Public's
actual
not going to see the easements, but just when is that in the sequencing and when the public might actually see construction underway?
Okay, we have a comprehensive list of all the easements that we need. Some of those easements are already in place, and some of them might need to be expanded, and certainly there's some new easements, there's some people we're going to need easements from who do not have an easement right now. For example, on Seagate, we have I would call it a de facto easement on one of our, we have a drain pipe that goes from a public road to the Holly Pond Inlet. So certainly those folks would be happy to have us maintain the pipe that's there. Yet the culvert that we propose is large, so we're going to need additional space from the adjacent property, as well as formalizing the easement where we are already located, and then inland from Du Bois from Coach Lamp to Salt Box, and Du Bois to Coach Lamp, places like that, there's going to be some easements required.
Okay.
So we, to answer your question more directly, we have come up with a list, and we have not yet ordered appraisals on all of the properties. We have ordered some appraisals on a few of the properties, and that will give us an idea of how much an easement cost. It's called damages. So if we came to your property and asked you for an easement, we would first do an appraisal and find out what that easement is actually worth, and they call that a damage. We would pay you that amount for the right to go on your property.
Okay. Questions from you, Marcy? All right. Great report. Thank you, Darren.
Thank you.
Next up, registrar of voters. Are they not here today?
No.
Okay. Kathy, tax collector.
Kara texted me, said she's got to sit one up so she doesn't come in.
Okay, that's fine.
It's the hot seat.
The very hot seat. Thank you.
Okay, so just a few highlights from the report. Collections as of year end were slightly elevated versus the prior 2 years. We definitely saw a benefit from the increase in the SALT deductions from $10,000 to $40,000. So people were opting to pay in December versus January. Advance payments, obviously, that would have impacted that, were also higher than the previous 4 years that were paid in December. We're also continue to see an increase in online payments in absolute dollars as well as percentage of levy. I included that information just so you could see it's not just a dollar amount, it's also percentage of levy. We have uploaded on the tax collector's website the tax payment history, and that's a file which contains all payments made for property taxes to the town of Darien in calendar year 2025. You can print off statements, and taxpayers find that useful when they're filing their federal and state income tax returns. Supplemental motor vehicle billing that was done in January was above budget. We ended up billing about $886,000. We were budgeted to bill $775,000. We also were above budget on the probate billing for real estate. We were just under $180,000 of actual billing versus $100,000 of budgeted billing. Next is the impact that the United States Postal Service, their change in how they're handling postmarks, which is very important to taxpayers, who, especially those who end up wanting to pay at the last day to pay or last few days to pay before the deadline. The post office is no longer guaranteeing that your envelope will be postmarked the day you drop it off in the post office. They're saying now it will be, the actual postmark date will be the date that it is processed by one of their automated sorting machines. So that means that could take at least a couple of days after you drop it off in the mailbox. So we wanted to make sure that taxpayers are aware of this change, so it's been in the last 2 newsletters. It's on our website, and I will make sure that there's an insert that goes out with our July bills. And lastly, we did make some online payment platform enhancements with our payment provider Point and Pay. The main changes on this are it's much more transparent in terms of how the fees are disclosed. We are now including the option to pay by digital wallet, which is Google or Apple Pay. And it also has the option to be able to translate the site into a variety of different foreign languages. And I think that's it. The only other thing, and I don't know if this is my place or not to say this, but I would like to acknowledge Tony Homicki, our assessor, who is going to be retiring, and I'm very sad, at the end of February.
I'm not sad.
And I just want to say congratulations. I'm really happy for you, and you have been an amazing assessor to work with. I don't work for you, I work with
You
you.
didn't expect that, Kathy. I did color coordinate with John today, so I think you had a curve.
I do like
Thank
that.
you, Kathy.
Yeah, I noticed that in Susan's report, you slipped that in and didn't tell me. Tony's been a true joy to work with, not just because he's a great sort of town hall citizen, but he has a planet-sized brain when it comes to tax assessment issues. I mean, the way he understands the topic, the way he manages the very challenging process of dealing with appeals and some of our more complex tax cases. I've talked to him many, many times about a number of these issues. I've watched him in executive session. I've watched him sort of plan all that so that we get to the best and balanced answer, not just for the town, but for the citizens or businesses involved. He's an A-plus player, and he will be sorely missed.
Yes.
Thank you, Tony.
And a lot of assessors and collectors do not get along, but we get along very well. So that's number one, that whoever you hire to replace him.
Yeah, put that at the top of the job. Has to get
Send him
along
out
with
to
Kathy.
Do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think we've come to the end of our list, so I appreciate everybody coming by today and for these very thorough reports. I genuinely appreciate it. Everybody have a fantastic day. Thank you.